my name is Emily. Today I'm here at Moana Nursery at our Moana Lane location to tell you about some really important information regarding bringing your houseplants back inside for the fall. The first chill of the autumn evenings is here, which means once we start dipping back to 60, 55 degrees at night, it's time to bring those houseplants inside. Now, you might not know that some houseplants will actually benefit from having extra sunlight in the summer, so I'm going to briefly kind of walk through some plants that you can move outside that you may have already moved. Starting with an obvious choice, cacti and succulents are one of the most popular plants to bring outside here in Nevada because they can handle a lot of sunlight, the more the merrier for them, and they also are very tolerant of drying out. So for our high desert gardeners here, these are two very easy and lower maintenance options that you can bring outside without worry about stressing them out. Next, we have a very popular houseplant choice for our gardeners here is citrus. Now, there are lots of different kinds of citrus, and in order to start bearing fruit, you will actually need to give them quite a bit of sun that you might not have access to indoors, depending on where you're at. Therefore, bringing these plants outside in the spring and summer is a fantastic choice for those who want to get really good tasting fruit. It also allows pollination to occur, which is very important for actually getting the fruit to set on the plant. It's very important to note, though, that while citrus do like being outside in the spring and summer, we advertise them as houseplants because they are not cold hardy for our winters here. As soon as the temperature drops below 50 degrees, they can start shedding leaves, and any frost is enough to really damage those citrus plants. So we advise against planting them in the ground for that reason. But you can find a great decorative pot and have a lot of success bringing that plant back inside for the winter time. Next, you might not think to, but a lot of your tropicals can actually fare well outside. The main thing is you want to find a shaded spot that's a little bit closer to the house, so they're a little bit more sheltered, as they won't be able to handle the dry as much as some of your other plants like cacti and succulents. So you'll need to be thoughtful about checking them for watering, maybe a little bit more than you would if you're keeping them inside. But things like bird of paradise or monsteras, having that direct sun or at least a little bit of outside fresh air helps really produce these big, beautiful, and glossy leaves that can lead to bigger and better houseplants. So you might be thinking, well, if I do bring my plants outside, I can probably just start moving them back in. However, there are 4 key steps that I want you to think about before bringing your houseplants in, just to make it a lot easier on yourself in the future, in the wintertime, so you're not battling with bugs inside your house. They are susceptible to attracting insects that they wouldn't normally get as much inside if they're kept in all year round. So weighing the pros and cons, it's really nice to keep them outside so that they have a lot of really good growth through the spring and summer, but it is very important to treat them before they come back in the house. One very common method that you may have heard of before is the method of soaking your houseplants in a bucket or a tub filled with water. Now, this is a great first step as to getting rid of any potential creepy crawlies in the nooks and crannies of your plant that can be hard to reach. However, if you're like me, I've got some big plants at home and no bucket is going to be big enough to put those in. So my approach there with my bigger plants is I will oftentimes take a hose on a medium to gentle pressure setting and just spray down all the surfaces of the plant. You want it to be strong enough so that you can knock off any cobwebs or bugs or dust that might be on the plant, but not so hard that you're going to damage the leaves. Additionally, from there, you want to follow up any water treatment with a manual wiping down of the leaves. I've got a tool that makes this not only easy, but also very satisfying. These We the Wild plant care cleaning gloves. I got these as soon as I found out about them because normally I'd be wiping down my plants with paper towels and they'd be getting dirty and I'd be going through so much just to clean off my plants. With these gloves though, they're made of a very soft microfiber component that's very delicate on your plants, but allows you to actually slip the gloves on and reach into the very narrow surfaces. As you can see, with some of our plants, they have very small crevices, which is actually the preferred spot of a lot of insects like scale and mealybugs to hide in. So the cleaning gloves and making sure that you're wiping down these surfaces is very important. Spraying goes a long way, and so does soaking, but really getting in there and wiping down the leaves will also clean off any dust or dirt and allow your plants to photosynthesize very well indoors. So after I've sprayed off my plants or soaked them and then wiped them down, I will use an insecticide to make sure that I am killing any bugs that are going to be on my houseplants indoors. And I'll do this before I even bring them in. My personal favorite is the Fertilome Houseplant Hero Insecticidal Soap. Now, this stuff works so well. You might also be familiar with using neem oil. Personally, I like the insecticidal soap because it doesn't leave any sort of smell or residue on your plants. And it's also safe and rated for indoor use, which is very important when looking to use an insecticide on your houseplants. You want to make sure you're going to be using something that is safe and rated for indoor use. And as always, make sure you peel this little label back and read the full instructions before you apply any insecticide to your plants for the health of you, your home, and the plants themselves. The insecticidal soap is great for all of your soft-bodied houseplant pests. Now, this will work really well on your aphids, things like spider mites, as well as scales and soft mealybugs, which are probably your most common problems that you're going to face with moving your houseplants back inside. There are, however, a couple of insects that can be a little bit harder to kill, which is why my fourth step for following up is going to make sure I eliminate anything from coming in my house that I don't want. Speaking of our step 4, that is our systemic insecticidal granules. Now, these actually work passively through the plant. So you sprinkle a little bit in around the top of the soil and work it in a little bit. Water your plant lightly so that the product doesn't drain out of the basin, but this will actually work by moving through the roots of the plant all the way up to the top through the leaves. So that way any plant feeding insect that feeds on that plant will die. The imidacloprid in this works across lots of different pests, so this is your full-scale protection for your houseplants. So we've talked about our 4 steps for success as far as moving them back inside, but what happens once they're in? Now, houseplants that have been outside are used to receiving a certain amount of light that they've been acclimated to, which you might not be able to currently give them indoors all around their normal spots. So for the first 2 weeks that they're inside your home, you want to make sure to leave them by the brightest windows or the brightest spot. That way they're still getting a similar amount of sun to what they were getting outside. And then gradually over the course of the 2 weeks, move them further and further back from the window until they're in their normal spots. This will make sure you don't go through any sort of movement shock or dropping of leaves, and that you're very successful with bringing those pest-free houseplants back inside. Lastly, one of the things that we'll see in the next couple of months is one of the most annoying pests to deal with, your fungus gnats. There are a couple of easy things you can do to make sure that your fungus gnats aren't coming in with your soil. Now, a lot of times what makes fungus gnats so difficult to get rid of is that while the adult flies are buzzing around your house, they will actually lay their eggs in the top couple inches of your soil in the pots. Therefore, a really easy way to suppress the larvae from hatching and the flies from being able to relay their eggs in that layer, you want to make sure that you put down a fresh layer of medium on top, almost like a mulch for your pots. My favorite to use is sand because it's coarse but dense enough so that the flies can't go through and get to the soil below. That's one of the best and most effective ways that you can prevent fungus gnats altogether. However, we do also have sticky traps that can be used in tandem if you do have an outbreak of fungus gnat in the winter months, which is all too common here. All right. Well, hopefully this will make bringing in your houseplants a little bit easier. Remember your 4 steps for success, and we've got all the tools that you will need to help make your move back in successful for your plants and for your home at any of our 3 locations. Please feel free to stop by either Moana Lane, South Virginia, or Pyramid Way, and any of our houseplant people or salespeople will be happy to help you out. Have a great day. See you guys next time.